Hello again, fight fans. I'm Michael Montero for Boxing Monthly. You're watching the Neutral Corner for the week of June 17th. It's my birthday, June 13th, the day I was born. I was actually born at 5:55 p.m. East Coast time, and the hospital I was born in was a tiny little Catholic hospital that is now a psych ward. True story. So that tells you all I need to know about my humble beginnings. But the birthday festivities started this weekend. Tiffany took me out parasailing. I put a little video of it on the channel. We were testing out the GoPro. I've never done nothing like that, and man, I don't like heights, but she convinced me to do it, and it was a lot of fun. I would highly recommend it. It was pretty damn cool, and I would definitely do it again. So yeah, we got the party started this weekend. We'll carry it through till tonight. And look at this. I'm doing this on my birthday edition of TNC, just for you guys. Let's get into some news and notes. So first and foremost, want to say thank you so much to all my Patreon supporters. The response was surprising to me. How many of you responded so quickly? We just launched the Patreon page. We're going to be in contact with all you guys very, very soon to set up possible video questions or Google chats. I'll email you guys, contact you separately over the next week or so, just getting caught up with all of it because it was more than I anticipated up front. But I'm gonna give everybody your shouts, your tweets, all that stuff, I promise. You guys are so awesome. Thank you. For those of you who haven't checked out my Patreon page, please do. Patreon.com/MonteroOnBoxing. And even if it's $1 a month, guys, whatever you can pledge to go into this channel to become part of the team and help make this thing bigger and better so we can take it to the higher levels. We got big things planned. I would greatly appreciate it. Even if you can't pledge, I totally understand. Feel free to blast the page out there to all your friends. You know, tweet it, post it, whatever, share it, get it out there. Thank you so much. I want to give a big congratulations to Marco Antonio Barrera for getting elected into the International Boxing Hall of Fame this past weekend in Canastota. Could there be a more deserving fighter? I mean, what an outstanding career. And I always get asked by people who I think the all-time great Mexican fighters are, and I go back and forth, you know, with the top 3 or 4, but I always include Barrera. I rate Barrera higher than Juan Manuel Marquez, and I rate him higher than Eric Morales. And I know it's not a popular opinion, but those 3 guys kind of fought around the same time, same era. They had mixed results around some of the same fighters they all faced. But all in all, start to finish, Marco Antonio Barrera for me was the best of those 3 and among the top 4 or 5 at least all-time great Mexican fighters. So congratulations to him. This fight isn't signed yet. Well, a couple of, actually a triple header that might be coming to Los Angeles on September 9th. And I don't know if I talked about this last week, but the rematch between Rungvisai and Gonzalez, that's done. That's happening September 9th here in Los Angeles. Venue not set because they're trying to work it a couple other fights. One possible fight that's almost signed is between Juan Francisco Estrada and Carlos Cuadras. That would also be on that card. And then they're talking about bringing Naoya Inoue, who's due to make his American debut this fall, and place him in the ring against McWilliams Arroyo. That would be the triple header. This would be September 9th, and it'd be at the Forum. They've talked about different venues, but I think it's gonna go to the Forum from what I'm hearing, because there's another fight that night here in LA. Callum Smith is fighting Anthony Durrell for a vacant super middleweight title. I think I've talked about that one before. but that doesn't have a venue set either. I think that is going to go to StubHub, and of course, that would be a Showtime fight. This triple header will go to the Forum and be an HBO fight. Not signed, not set in stone, but it's pretty damn close. And if that comes off, that is an outstanding triple header for diehard boxing fans. With 6 of the best, probably the 6 top 115 pounders, at least, maybe not McWilliams Arroyo at this point, but all 6 of them are in the top 10 of that division. That is an outstanding triple header if it could come off. So more to come on that. Not, comfortable yet reporting it as signed, sealed, delivered, but damn close. Either way, September 9th, Southern California fight fans, get your ass down to LA because it's going to be live. There's going to be a lot of boxing going on. Okay, upcoming fight between Manny Pacquiao and Jeff Horn. We've talked about this in a bunch of videos and stuff I've done on the channel. But I've also talked about Top Rank coming out with a new platform. Now, I've talked about it possibly being a streaming service, which is what I still think it is, but there is a possibility that it might be tied to a network. It might be tied to a TV channel, probably not HBO, but there's talks that there might be a piece of it tied to a network. I don't know. I don't have any details. This is just the latest and greatest I'm hearing, but I am hearing, and it's pretty much not confirmed, but it's pretty close to being confirmed, that Pacquiao-Horn will kick off this new thing. At least that's what's supposed to happen. So that fight between Pacquiao and Horn over in Australia, where I think they've sold over 50,000 tickets, it's going to do a huge crowd over there. That's going to kick off this new Top Rank platform. My hope is that the streaming aspect of it is only about $10, $15 a month. I think if they go any higher than that, they're pricing out the diehard fan, and that defeats the purpose of such an endeavor. My further hope is that any subscriber to that network, that streaming service, will get a discount on future pay-per-view events. So whereas if you ordered the pay-per-view on TV, you're a non-subscriber or whatever, maybe you paid the full 70, 80 bucks. But if you're a subscriber to the Top Rank streaming service, whatever platform it is, maybe it's only 50 bucks, something like that. They need to have some sort of discount as an added incentive. I've heard that might be the case. So let's wait and see, but that should be coming out soon, the announcement. And they're planning on doing, I think, about 3 cards a month. Some months might only have 2, some months will have 4, maybe 5, but it will average out to about 3 cards a month that are just available to subscribers. So that'd be a pretty damn cool service. And if you look at Top Rank, they've been busy signing talent, signing people out of the Olympics. They've recently been signing some veterans, kind of gatekeeper type fighters. So they're revving up for something. There's something big coming from Top Rank. They've been in this business for decades, guys. They know what they're doing. So whatever they announce with this thing, I think it's going to be pretty big. One last note here before we get into the review of what happened last week. MGM Grand placed on hold for August 26th by Mayweather Promotions. And there was a bunch of talk about that on Twitter, and I saw some articles posted and stuff like that. Guys, that's been on hold for a while now. Mayweather Promotions has had that date on hold for months. So this isn't like they just suddenly put a hold on it. Somebody just found that out and released it and started talking about it. And this is how a lot of these clickbait sites work, and a lot of boxing news sites, that even the reputable ones, it's about getting that first post. It's about getting that first tweet out, right? Because that's the age of media we live in. So somebody who knows somebody goes to said clickbait site and says, hey man, I just saw, because my friend works at MGM, blah, 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 Mayweather Promotions. They have a date, boom, boom, boom. They have a contract. They have a hold on this date in August. And boom, it gets reported and everybody goes nuts. Meanwhile, it's been on the books for fucking months. So relax. The whole talk about Mayweather and McGregor coming together, guys, does it make any fucking sense for that fight to come together in August in Las Vegas when the following month you have Canelo Golovkin, and that's already set? You've got casino sponsorships and all that. I've already put up the money. All the whales have already put up millions of dollars. That's what took the fight away from Dallas or from Los Angeles. All that shit's done. You think that Mayweather and his people are stupid enough to put on an event a month before that, knowing that all that's already in motion? Hell no. So don't fall for that clickbait bullshit. All right, enough news and notes. Let's get into the review of what happened in the ring last week around the world. So Friday, June 9th in Bergen, Norway, Cecilia Braekhus scores a unanimous decision over Erica Annabella Farias to defend her WBC, WBA, WBO, IBF, and IBO welterweight titles. What I found interesting about this, and I didn't even realize this about female fights. You guys know I talk about the 2-minute rounds, which I think is stupid and they need to change. This was a championship fight and it was 10 rounds. So I guess female fights are not only less time per round, but less rounds, even in championship fights. Again, ladies, if you want to be taken seriously as quote-unquote real fighters, just like the boys, you need to change your rules. You need to fight under the same rules, right? You know, you look at, correct me if I'm wrong on this, guys, but if you look at the NBA and the WNBA, I believe the court's the same size. I believe the hoop is the same height. I believe the basketball itself is the same size. The quarters are the same length. So the WBA plays under the same rules as the NBA. I believe female tennis is played under the same rules as male tennis. On and on it can go with like soccer and all that stuff, right? So female boxing, if you really want to catch up and make headway, championship round's got to be 12 fights, and the round's got to be 3 minutes. So Braekhus wins. Look, I've talked about the fact that she needs to be on Ring Magazine. She needs to be on the cover. She could be on the cover of Boxing Monthly. I think it's time. You know, she's a figure in female boxing. I mean, we should get her on the cover of these magazines. But she hasn't really fought anybody, and there's not much opposition in her division. There's a few people I like to see her fight. Layla McCarter is a fighter I'd like to see her fight. I'd like to see her maybe move up to middleweight and challenge the middleweight champion. Maybe there's some things she could do, but there's just not a lot of competition for her. And until she gets in there and starts knocking girls out and stuff like that, just outside of Norway, nobody really knows and not many people care. So it is what it is. But also Friday, here in the United States at the Turning Stone Casino in Verona, New York, Regis Prograis improves to 20-0. He came into this fight 19-0 with a second round TKO over Joel Diaz Jr., who came into the fight 23-0. So Prograis, this was a showbox card. He's now got 17 knockouts in his 20 wins. 28 years old, 5'8", 67-inch reach. You know, good size for his division. Really put the 140-pound division on blast here. On notice, I should say, not on blast. On notice. This guy was born in New Orleans, but is relocated to Houston, where there is a really healthy, growing gym scene. I'm telling you, Texas is going to become the next hotbed of boxing in America, particularly southeast Texas, where you've got Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston, all right there within 4 or 5 hours drive of each other. That's a growing gym scene there. And Prograis trains there in Houston, where there's some good fighters coming out of there, man. This guy was not a great amateur. 2012 Olympic trials, the U.S. Olympic trials, he lost twice, 0-2, and did not qualify. Nothing really substantial in his amateur career, but there's a very good, exciting pro style. And he's fought on a couple of showbox cards, looked very good, dominant. Hasn't fought crazy good opposition. This was his best opponent. Diaz came into this fight undefeated, has some skills and some craft. It's time to step Prograis up. I'm not saying he's ready for a title shot. I'm saying he's ready to fight somebody, the top 10, top 15, and let's see what he can do. Let's get him off showbox. Let's get him off Friday night boxing. Let's get him on Saturday night boxing. I want to see what he can do. Now, Saturday, we had all kinds of crazy news, right? But let's start off with a fight in Sloan, Iowa. This was on CBS Sports, where Jose Haro scored a 8th round knockout over Daniel Franco, who was knocked down twice in the 8th round. For those of you who don't know Daniel Twitch Franco, that's his nickname, Twitch, SoCal-based fighter. I've known him for a few years. I met him just through circles, working different functions and stuff like that. And I'd see him around, I'd keep up with them. Just kind of watched him come up in the ranks. He signed with Rock Nation Promotions recently, and I really think they did him very badly here and let him down. At the end of this fight, there were complications. He was taken to the hospital. There were two brain bleeds, and he was placed in a coma. And he remains in a coma now as I'm filming this. In fact, there is a GoFundMe account out right now to raise money for his medical funds. I will post a link to that in the comments section. I will pin that at the top of the comments section. So please, guys, if you could, go there. If you can pledge $5 to help his cause. At the time I'm filming this, he's pledged, or I think he's already raised over $16,000. But guys, you know how these medical fees are. That's a drop in the bucket. And this kid was a prospect. He wasn't making big time dollars yet. So anything you could give, spread the word, please. I'll post that GoFundMe. But complications, placed in a coma. And he's still in bad shape right now. At the time I'm filming this, I don't have any updates. Here's the tragedy of this. Franco was knocked out in a fight on March 23rd, I think here in California. In California, anytime there's a knockout, places fighters on a 90-day suspension. You can't spar, you can't do anything, no matter what kind of stoppage it is. 90-day suspension, right? Now that's in March 23rd. So at the time I'm recording this, 90 days haven't passed yet. And you say to yourself, what the hell is this kid doing fighting in Iowa? The Iowa Commission, not a very strong, experienced commission, really dropped the ball on this one. But so did the fucking promoter. The promoter let this happen. Here's the kicker, guys. Franco fought in Mexico last month on May 12th. Now, he fought a cab driver and knocked him out. I think it was like a first-round knockout. But that fight should have never happened. And Rock Nation knew it shouldn't have happened. That's why they took him down to Mexico. Franco's not a Mexican fighter. There was no business taking him down there. Rock Nation doesn't have a footprint in Mexico. They took him down to Mexico because it was 2 months, not even a full 2 months after being knocked out in a fight here in California. That is an egregious fuck up. Then they do the fight in Iowa last weekend. Now, it's very close to 90 days, almost a week or two away, but not quite 90 days. So Iowa fucked up here, and that commission needs to be held responsible. But Rock Nation, the promoter, your fighter was knocked out March 23rd. You have him fighting in Mexico, where anything goes, in May. Then you have him fight again in June. Still not a full 90 days. Guys, it's supposed to be 90 days out of the fucking gym. Now, a lot of fighters violate that. They secretly go to the gym and get their work in. But you're not supposed to spar. You're not supposed to do shit for 90 days. This is a huge, huge just violation by a promoter in Rock Nation. And promoters are supposed to look out for their fighters. They're supposed to know what the fuck is going on. They're supposed to know the rules. This is just further vindication of what I've been saying, that Rock Nation doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. And I don't see them being involved in the sport this time next year, because stuff like this can't happen. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. If Daniel Franco has lifelong injuries, life-altering injuries, I hope that I've wished him and his family a full recovery. But if there are any life-altering injuries, it's on Rock Nation and it's on that Iowa Commission. Two egregious fuck-ups that cannot go ignored. That should never have happened. The kid should have never been in the fucking ring. For me, this is somebody I actually know, okay? And I'm not saying we're best friends, but when I'd see him out of the function, hey, Mike, what's up? Hey, what's up, man? Talk, keep up with each other on social media, watch what he's doing. And he was really just starting to carve out a little name for himself up until he had some issues this year. He stopped a few months ago, and then this thing happened. But he had a little streak going. He was doing pretty good for himself. This is a tragedy. And yeah, maybe I'm a little biased because I know the kid. He's a nice kid, good family. But to see something like this that shouldn't have happened, it sucks. It just sucks. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. So, also on Saturday in Belfast, Northern Ireland, North Ireland. Ryan Burnett, I told you guys he was going to win this title. He scores a unanimous decision over Lee Haskins, grabs the IBF bantamweight title. 2 judges scored at 119-107 for Burnett, who knocked down Haskins in the 6th and the 11th. This was a completely one-sided fight. However, Judge Clark Sammartino scored at 118-108 for Haskins, and pretty much admitted afterwards that he screwed up the names on the scorecard. And even though both fighters' names were on their trunks, one's a southpaw, one's orthodox, it was pretty clear to see who was who. Sammartino, I don't know if he was drunk off his ass. I don't know what happened. It was a good score. It was just he got the names mixed up. Now, the IBF has released a statement saying that they're going to look into this and this shouldn't have been tolerated, and Sammartino's done a good job for us. Just so you guys know, the sanctioning body, if it's a title fight, whoever's sanctioning the fight, they're picking the pool of judges. Of course, whatever local commission is involved, they have their say as well. The promotion has their say. There's kind of a pool, and then all the parties involved make their pick of who's going to judge which fight, blah, blah, blah. So this is an IBF judge, and the IBF makes this statement, comes out. But at the time I'm recording this, there's been no disciplinary action. Nobody's been suspended. They're not overturning. This was a majority decision that should have been a unanimous decision. The right guy won. But this is another egregious fuck up that shouldn't happen. Most of you guys, if you're watching this show, then you're a diehard fan. So you've obviously seen boxing scorecards. And you know that it says blue corner, red corner, and it says the fighter's name. And then you jot down your scores at the end of each round. You would think, even if somehow you screwed up the names, halfway through the fight, you'd be like, wait a second. That guy's going to the red corner, not the blue corner. And you start crossing out, because the scorecards are all filled out at the top, the officials and all that stuff. All that's filled out. The commission people fill all that out, so that's all the same. So it's not as if, the top part that said red corner, blue corner, and had all the fighters in there, fighters' information was filled in correctly. It's just that the judge, he wrote the score under the wrong guy's name. So he screwed up 12 different times. Not once, not 12 different times. That sort of incompetence is what I'm talking about. Now, Clark Sammartino is an older guy. He's an elderly gentleman. And this is what I say, guys. Judges need term limits. And stuff like this, thank the boxing gods that it didn't cost somebody the fight. Because just imagine if somehow this was a close fight, okay? And this score mattered enough to sway the fight. And let's say Haskins wins. And Burnett now is out of this title. Guys, titles make a big difference, especially for little fighters that don't have big fanfare. Neither one of these guys is a big name. So it could be the difference between making 20 grand in your next fight or 120 grand in your next fight. It could make that kind of a difference. It's life-changing for a lot of these guys. So a score like this, which wasn't even a bad score, it was just for the wrong guy, it can change a person's life. So remember that name, Clark Sammartino. Remember that this is the IBF, and they released this. They did a press release today and said we're going to look into this. Remember that, and let's see what happens. If we don't see any action, you know what? Tweet the IBF, blow them up, and say what's up with Clark Sammartino. The last name is Sammartino. Hound the IBF to find out what they're going to do to correct this. Make your voice heard so that this shit stops happening. It's ridiculous. And this is a case here, guys, where, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I'm not someone who uses the word corruption. This wasn't corruption. This was flat out ineptitude. This was somebody, if you did this at whatever job you do, if you did something this horrible, if you did this bad at your job, you would have at least been written up, right? You would have at least been taken into your boss's office and reprimanded, and maybe you wouldn't get fired. But if you did this 2 or 3 times, you'd certainly be fired. You would at least get in trouble. You'd be put on blast. So let's keep the IBF accountable. Also, this weekend, on Sunday, the 11th, in Lancaster, close, about an hour north of Los Angeles, it was a PBC and FS1 card. Brandon Rios scores a 7th round knockout over Aaron Herrera. It was a pretty exciting scrap. Look, Brandon Rios can't be in a bad scrap. It's typical Brandon Rios. Probably took too many punches, didn't move his head very much. But he was in there against a boxer that just wasn't nearly as experienced or skillful, and he gets him out of there. Got him out of there with a body shot. It was actually pretty nice the way he set it up. Jab, 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 boom, right into the rib cage. So good setup, good knockout, but where does this put him? I mean, what's next for him? I don't know. You know, I talked about Mike Alvarado a couple weeks ago, who recently had a fight in Chicago. I think Mike Alvarado has slipped way more than Brandon Rios, but I just don't see where these guys are going. I hope that neither one of them is fighting more than 2 years from now. I hope that they're trying to line up a big money fight for them and cash out and call it a day, because even with Rios looked great in this fight, but guys, matchmaking 101. So, maybe he can serve as fodder to an up-and-coming prospect and make some money that way and get a date on Showtime or something. Who knows? But I don't see, let's not get too excited about Bam Bam Rios. Look, if he fights Victor Ortiz, if that fight ever comes off, that's a fun fight. I'll be there for that one. But short of something like that, I don't know if it's going to end well for Bam Bam. This Friday in Detroit, Michigan at the Masonic Temple, Claressa Shields is fighting a fighter with a record of 7-8-3, and it's 8 2-minute rounds. So a couple of guys I know, Demetrius Banks, a couple guys I follow on Facebook, we chat a little bit here and there, are going to be fighting on that card. But of course, they're trying to make Claressa Shields a headliner. But Claressa, with the way she's been acting in media and just some of the mess-ups, the screw-ups by her, the little momentum that she had with that last fight being on Showtime, I feel is already kind of... She needs to do something really, really big in this fight to get people talking again, because her personality, her mishandling of the media and everything else has really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And at this point, she's almost in danger of becoming obscure and not really important. So she needs to do something big in that fight, man. Those of you in the Detroit area, though, get over to that venue. You'll have a great fucking time. Fun cards. I know a lot of my friends are going to be there. So those of you who are going to be there, let me know what it's like. Let me know what the crowd's like. I'm curious what kind of crowd shows up for that fight versus the last fight that they had. I think it was at the MGM. Let me know how that goes. Saturday the 17th in Germany. Oh, man. A great, great title fight between Tyrone. It's not Tyrone. Tryon. I think it's Tryon Zoie and Paul Smith fighting for the WBA 168-pound title. What a shit show. I actually tweeted about this today. Paul Smith, okay? He lost 3 straight fights in a stretch between 2014 and 2015. 2 of those fights were at 168, and then he moved to a catchweight, I think, of 172 and lost to Andre Ward. Then he won 3 fights against just journeymen last year, all 3 at light heavyweight. So this is a guy who hasn't fought at super middleweight since February of 2015. Lost that fight, and then lost his previous fight at super middleweight as well. I believe both of those were against Arthur Abraham. So he lost once in 2014, lost in 2015, and then has moved up in weight. Yet somehow, magically, overnight, I think he was rated in the top 20 by the WBA, and then all of a sudden overnight, poof, he's rated number 5 in the WBA at super middleweight, a division he hasn't fought at in almost 2.5 years. And again, I repeat, lost his last 2 fights in that division. So not only has he not fought in that division in 2.5 years, he hasn't won a fight in that division in about 4 years. Yeah, he's rated number 5. And he's going to fight this Zoie guy who's only fought inside Germany against very, very poor opposition. What a shit fight. The WBA is a joke. Just a complete joke. Now, what promoter Eddie Hearn and money taker Gilberto Mendoza of the WBA are hoping is that Paul Smith can win this fight. Because Zoie, who's favored to win and should be favored to win, has fought absolutely fucking nobody. Smith, as lackluster as he is probably Zoogie's best opponent. If somehow Paul Smith can win this fight, and he probably won't, he shouldn't. He'll probably lose in dominant fashion. But if he were to pull this off, it sets up fights with guys like George Groves. There's a lot of fights that could be made. Even a fight with DeGale to quote-unquote unify titles. That could be spun, okay? So there's a lot of politics and possible big money involved in this thing. What a ugly fucking shit show. That's all I'm not even going to talk about that goddamn fight anymore. Let's talk about the big card here in Las Vegas at Mandalay Bay. Of course, it's the rematch between SOG and Crusher. So I got my credential confirmation for this fight last Thursday. And I remember talking to some friends about it, and they were surprised that I was confirmed to cover this fight. Because they're like, man, Rock Nation doesn't like you very much because you put them on blast a lot. Andre Ward fucking hates you. He blocked you. He's tried to blacklist you. Yeah, but you know what? I do good work. I do good work. And I worked my ass off for that first fight. I did so much material reporting on that fight because I felt like it was falling under the radar. And it was. The pay-per-view sales showed that. But you know, I can always go back and I could run trending analysis reports on all the clicks that my stories on different websites generated. My previews on Undisputed Champion Network, and I called into a couple of podcasts and previewed that fight. You know, the videos on my channel, I can do all the numbers there. I can look at all the tweet impressions I generated, the hashtag clicks, the story expands, all of it. And I could put that together in a nice little package, and I could email that off to the promoter. And they see that shit and say, holy fuck, that guy's not even a big platform. He's a small little independent platform. That guy generated over 1 million fucking clicks for us. Over 1 million fucking clicks that guy generated promoting our fight. So you know what? Yeah, he's a prick. He's a prick that says a lot of nasty shit, but we want him to cover this fucking fight. So that's how that works, guys. I haven't been completely blacklisted yet, but I'm on my way. All things considered, though, you know, I thought about it long and hard. I talked about it with Tiffany. Me and her really talked about it. We were possibly going to even fly up to Vegas because we had some flight vouchers that we could fly up there for like $75 each and cover this fight. But we talked about it, and I just thought about Andre Ward, and I get accused of hating the guy. I really don't. I don't. I just talk about him in a frank and honest way. But the treatment of the media, and I'll talk myself, not just myself, I mean associates and peers that I work with, mentors of mine that have been treated poorly by this guy, and his treatment of the fans, his treatment of the sport. And I think what's going to happen again here, and I'll get to my prediction in a second, all signs point to more fuckery. It points to further gridlock in the light heavyweight division and in boxing in general. It sucks, but I ultimately decided to cancel my credential for this fight and stay at home and watch it. So I'm going to be at home watching this one. I should be ringside, I could be, but I decided to kind of make a political stand here, and I'm going to be watching from home. So that being said, I'll be scoring the fight on Twitter and tweeting out my round-by-round score. So, guys, tweet with me, and let's see how we see this thing go, you know, round by round. But real quick, before I get to the main event, undercard. Guillermo Rigondeaux fighting Moises Flores for Rigondeaux's super bantamweight title. You know, for all the pound-for-pound talk about Rigondeaux, he's never fought anywhere but 122 pounds. He's never unified titles or cleaned out a division. Yes, I know he beat Nonito Donaire, who was the man, so I get that. But he hasn't cleaned out the super bantamweight division. He hasn't moved up in weight and won titles in multiple weight classes. And a lot of you guys talk about, well, not a lot, the very few Rigondeaux defenders left, talk about the fact that he's avoided. Yeah, he is avoided to a degree. But these days, I don't think he's avoided anymore. I think he turns down more opportunities than, than he's declined, than he's ducked. I just think that this is a guy who you could give him a pass a year after the Donaire thing, 2 years after the Donaire thing. You could talk about Bob Arum really not doing a good job for him, really doing him dirty, I think. Bob Arum just really, some of the things he said was across the line. I thought HBO did a great job. They tried really hard. I think Rock Nation tried hard. He was on that Cotto Canelo card, co-feature, had a great opportunity against an overmatched opponent, put the house to sleep. They tried him over in the UK. Couldn't get anything going there. It's on Rigondeaux right now. And he's not a pound-for-pound level fighter anymore. Pound-for-pound list criteria, guys. You have to own a division. You have to be dominant. You have to be active. You have to, if you don't unify titles and own a division, you have to move up in weight. You have to do something like that to justify your pound-for-pound status. One big win over a former fighter of the year, you can't hang on to that for 4 years, which is what Rigondeaux's been doing. It's been 3 or 4 years since he fought Donaire. So anyway, he comes into this fight listed as 36 years old, but we all know he's probably 40, 41. Going up against Flores, who is 30 years old and has mostly fought at featherweight. He's kind of fluctuated in weight, so he's going to be the bigger guy. He's like 5 inches taller. He's listed as 5'9", Rigo's listed as 5'4". So Rigondeaux should still be the favorite here. Flores, of course, coming in with the interim version of the title. Rigondeaux with the full version, and they're consolidating. You can guess which sanctioning organization this is, right? If Flores could score an upset here, it'd be great for the world of boxing. It'd do the boxing world a favor, and it'd heat up that division, which is completely fucking dormant right now. 122 pounds is dormant. If there was a shakeup here and Flores were to score the upset, that division opens up and heats back up again. So we'll see what happens. You got to favor Rigondeaux by horrible decision. So look, if you're out of beer, if your girlfriend is looking really sexy wearing some tight shorts and you're sitting on the couch watching the fight, she's looking good to you, you know what? You got about 45 minutes or so with this fight to go handle business. You know what I'm saying? So that's what you do with a fight like this. It has no business being the co-feature. Whew, that's a tough one. Also on the undercard, Luis Arias fighting Arif Magomedov, who is a Russian-born fighter who now lives in Los Angeles. For Arias, he's a Milwaukee-based fighter. Arias is 17-0, former United States amateur champion. I think 2-time U.S. amateur champion in the middleweight division. So good amateur career. And, at the regional domestic level, didn't really go global, but a good, solid amateur career. I favor him to win this fight. Hasn't showed a whole lot of power yet as a pro, and Magomedov has a good chin. At least he's shown a pretty good chin. I think he may have been stopped once. No, actually, I take that back. I think he was just decisioned. I see this one going the whole distance as well, guys. So not a very good undercard. The one fight I'm interested in the undercard, Dimitri Bivol. 10-0, 8 knockouts. You saw him on Showbox recently, right? A couple months ago, I think. Going up against Cedric Agnew, an experienced fighter. 29-2, 15 knockouts, Chicago fighter. Agnew's no joke. He's a good quality pro fighter who can handle himself in the ring. He went 7 rounds with Sergey Kovalev back in 2014. He's fought Yusuf Mack. Good quality fighter. This is a great step up in opposition for Bivol. I love this matchup. Do not miss this fucking fight. It is going to be the fight of the undercard. Probably the fight of the night. So let's see how real Bivol is. He's going to get a test from Agnew. I really think he's going to get a test. He was born in Kyrgyzstan, now lives in Russia. Interesting prospect, man. But okay, main event time. Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev. I called into a couple of shows. I called into the Boxing Rant this weekend, and I just got off the phone earlier calling into a show with The Grueling Truth. So check both of those shows out. I did over an hour, the Boxing Rant. I did about 40 minutes with Grueling Truth. Check both of those podcasts out. We talked almost exclusively about this matchup. So I've done a lot of previewing, talking about this fight. Here's how I feel, guys. First fight. I think that Andre Ward was surprised by how good Kovalev was early on. He was surprised how skilled and athletic and accurate Kovalev was. I don't think Kovalev is that hard of a hitter. I think his power, crusher, this whole thing is actually very overrated. I think he knocked down Ward because his punch was so fucking accurate. It was so sharp. It was a short little right hand. He didn't even get extension on it. It was a counter punch as Ward was coming in. It was perfectly placed. And that surprised Ward. He wasn't expecting that. Up until that point, the two best fighters Ward had fought are Carl Froch, who's a borderline Hall of Famer, maybe gets in, maybe doesn't. He finished his career well. And Mikkel Kessler, who I think falls short of the Hall of Fame, but a good quality fighter who carved out a good career, maybe borderline in some people's minds Hall of Famer, but both of those guys would fall short in my vote. It'd have to be a really, really weak year to even consider them. But those are the two best fighters. Andre Ward has always been a natural light heavyweight. He fought as a light heavyweight in the amateurs. He was killing himself, melting down as a pro to hold a further advantage because, and it's his prerogative. He likes to hold all the advantages when he does a fight. So against Froch and Kessler, he was able to manhandle them a little bit more, and the rough tactics and stuff were able to work. Now he's fighting a guy who's the same size. All this myth that Kovalev's bigger, stronger, that's complete BS. They're the same size. It's two light heavyweights here. But in that fight, I do think Ward was surprised at how much better Kovalev was or is than Froch and Kessler, because he just is. He's much, much better than those guys. Much. And stronger, because he's the same size as Andre Ward. So with all Andre's grappling and mauling and dirty stuff on the inside, as much as he did have success in moments, but he couldn't dominate with it. And every punch he had or whatever, Kovalev would answer. It was neck and neck, right? The whole time. So I think Ward knows that now coming in this time. He knows he has to start sooner. He can't wait till the 6th, 7th round to get going. He's got to come in fighting the way he fought in the 7th, 8th, 9th round against Kovalev and set the tone early. And he knows it's going to be a grueling, tough, physical fight. That's why he's been bulking up in camp, doing a lot more weightlifting, trying to get bigger. He knows he's going to need that strength against Kovalev to do the inside mauling, grappling kind of stuff he wants to do. Now, for Kovalev, I think he fell in love with his power. I think he had so much success in the first few rounds of that fight that he kind of let off the gas. And he settled into a rhythm. And it became bounce in, bounce out. Straight in and out. 1-2, 1-2. Zero body work. Kovalev sometimes will kind of do this lead right hand thing where he almost goes southpaw with it and leans in as a fighter's trying to slide out. He didn't do that move that much against Ward. He didn't manhandle Ward enough later on in that fight. Now, he claims that he overtrained in camp. He claims he was running 14 miles a day, which is fucking ridiculous. No professional prize fighter, boxing, MMA, taekwondo, whatever, should be running 14 hours a day. That's just stupid. It's just not good. If that's true and he really was, and they've cut that down to just a few miles a day, he'll look a lot better in this fight and have more energy. I do think, though, that he kind of let himself be lulled to sleep a little bit because he fell in love with his power in that first fight and let Ward kind of get back into it. I also think Kovalev was surprised that Ward was tougher than he thought. So I think both of these guys underestimated their opponent in different ways, and now they know what they're dealing with coming in here. Kovalev's key to victory is to be more active. We already know Ward's key to victory, start earlier. Kovalev, be more active. Now, what do I mean by more active? Well, you have two establishment judges here, Dave Moretti, Glenn Feldman, who almost always go for the establishment fighter, which is Andre Ward. The house fighter. Rock Nation, this is their promotion. Kathy Duva in main events. Part of the negotiation for the rematch, even though it had already been signed, but Ward and his team wanted to change the terms. And they wanted to decide who the judges were, the ref was, all of that. They wanted to delay the drug testing, and they wanted to control the promotion. So Kathy Duva in main events is simply pulled back. Rock Nation's running this show. And when you consider who the house fighter is, just remember that, okay? Dave Moretti, Glenn Feldman. Remember those two judges' names, and we'll see what happens Saturday night. But in close rounds where the punch numbers look similar, both guys land 3 or 4 good punches, those two judges are going to give it to Ward. Kovalev has to throw 20, 30 more punches around than Ward does. He's got to land 4, 5, 6 more punches, even if they're jabs, even if they're body shots. He's got to do more work, more volume to sway those establishment judges to go his way in the close rounds. That's the key to victory. So for Ward, do the same damn thing you did the second half of the fight. You just do it the whole 12 rounds, and 2 of these judges will give you the fight, and you'll win a split decision. For Kovalev, you've got to stay busy. You've got to throw more punches. I say he's got to throw 200 more punches, at least, than he threw in the first fight, to get those 2 judges to give him a couple of the close rounds. Steve Weisfeld is the 3rd judge. I think he will score this fight correctly. So watch his scorecard. I think at the end of the night, when we compare the scorecards, whoever wins, I think Steve Weisfeld will have the correct score. He'll have the best, most accurate score. That's my prediction. So, official prediction. Andre Ward wins a split decision. And the 2 judges, Moretti, Feldman, score it for him. Weisfeld either scores it slightly for Kovalev or possibly a draw. That's my decision. Or that's my prediction. Let me know what you guys think. Any of you go into the fight, let me know what it's like. I've heard that tickets are still for sale. They're being discounted at an alarming rate. They've overpriced the shit out of them. They had mid-level seats going for, or upper deck seats going for like $1,200 or something. So they're slashing and dashing. Any of you who want to go, let me know. I can hook you up with a good ticket guy. But if you guys do go, let me know what the atmosphere is like. Because man, the political tension, that first fight was so thick. It really felt like the O.J. Simpson trial. That's how it felt. And I'm curious if it will feel like that again. So any of you guys going, let me know. In the meantime, let me know your prediction. Write it down in the comments. And I'm just curious who you guys think is going to win this fight. I'm curious what your gut feeling is. Let me know. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Go to Patreon. I'll see you at the fights.